Hello everybody and welcome to my book vlog. Today we're doing something really interesting and innovative, so I hope you like it. As some of you may know, away from this book review vlog channel I have on YouTube, I am also an arts and culture blogger based in London, and that largely means that I visit art exhibitions and see theatre shows and ballet and opera around town, and I write and review and share my thoughts on them on social media. Why do I do this? Because I am really passionate about bringing the creative arts to a whole new audience. Audiences who perhaps are bamboozled with information from the various galleries and theatres, unable to really sort out what shows they should see. Perhaps they're a little intimidated, they don't often go to museums or go to theatre, and perhaps would just like a bit of advice and guidance on the one show or the couple of exhibitions they should see each year that I think they would really find interesting and provocative. I'm trying to break free the creative arts from the sort of confines of the people who are in the know and bring it out to a wider audience. So one of what I've been weighing up recently is, of course, I am fully aware that not everyone can get to London, and sometimes there are great shows in London, great art exhibitions with really provocative themes and challenging ideas that I wish I could bring more people in to see. So how was I going to do this? And I did sort of weigh up taking around a video camera in exhibitions, and that's quite tricky, as you can imagine. But one of the things that I thought would really work would be the review of art exhibition catalogues, which is why today we're going to start off with Howard Hodgkin's Absent Friends. For those of you who do follow me or who are in the know about the art shows around town, you will know that this was an exhibition that was shown at the National Portrait Gallery earlier this year. And it was a really challenging exhibition that really forced us to reconsider what constitutes portraiture. And of course, there was an element of sadness about the show because Howard died only a couple of weeks before the show opened. So I wanted to take this as the first example of how you can take a really top quality exhibition catalogue and how you can read it at home, look at the plates, look at the pictures, look at the really high quality images, and you can get a feel of what was in the gallery. And also it gives you time to weigh up and contemplate and sort of think about some of the challenges that the works brought to us. So how does an exhibition catalogue work? Well, largely it takes the form of an extended essay from someone in the gallery. Here it's Paul Moorhouse, who is the Senior Curator for 20th century portraits at the National Portrait Gallery, and he has done a long essay on why he picked Howard Hodgkin. And that is not only is it a very accessible essay that's not intimidating or overly academic, it's easy to read, but also because a lot of people are like, why would you pick Howard Hodgkin for a portrait show? Because those unfamiliar to the work, let's have a look at the front cover. That is not a portrait, right? This is not a portrait, because Howard Hodgkin is largely considered to be an abstract artist. He is not someone who would draw a portrait as you or I would know it. This is a portrait. This is one of my favourite portraits from the show. This is a portrait of David Hockney. I'm aware it is a giant penis. Now, most of us would not be able to recognise this as a portrait of David Hockney. Congrats to you if you can. Because what Howard is forcing us to reconsider is what constitutes portraiture. Because since the beginning of time, when people say portraits, what you imagine is a literal, figurative, exact representation of the person, what they were wearing, their clothes, where they were sitting, what was whether they were sad, whether they were happy. You know the ones, you've seen them, the Goyas, the Rembrandts, the Mona Lisa. That's a portrait. That's what we recognise as a portrait. This is not what most of us would consider to be a portrait. So, what was behind Paul Moorhouse's and the National Portrait Gallery's passion for bringing a portrait show on Howard Hodgkin? Well, as Paul Moorhouse explains in the essay at the beginning, Howard Hodgkin has been committed to portraiture his whole career. It's a passion for him. It always has been. But one of the things that he really wanted to focus on was how portraiture, the memory of a sitter, how a sitter makes you feel, is as important as what they look like. And so what he was trying to do is move us away from, oh, this is what the sitter looked like, to this is how the sitter made me feel. This is the memory that the sitter brought to me. These are powerful emotions that we're asking people to work with. How does your memory of a friend, your memory of a colleague, how would you represent that in colour, in form, if you removed figurative representation, the literal, this is what they look like, how would you paint them? And once you get used to it, you realise that Howard has come onto something that is immensely challenging, but also very emotional and revealing. So take this picture. This is a self-portrait. This was one of the few self-portraits that Howard did. And what I loved about it is, as you can see, it has not been confined to within the frame. The frame itself is smothered with marks and brush strokes just as much as the canvas. But of course there is the colour. Look at that colour. It's rich, it's glorious, it's uplifting. And suddenly you find yourself, okay, so unless Howard would have written, or unless the catalogue told me that this was a self-portrait of Howard, I wouldn't have recognised it. But I feel something when I look at this. I feel something about how Howard was feeling at that time. A particular favourite of mine is one that was very provocative, but one which I absolutely adored was this. As you can see, this painting was put on wood, and the grain of the wood is actually as part of the painting as the very obvious and only a few blue strokes. It was interesting because I almost want to say, well, what do you think this is a portrait of? Because blue is such a emotional colour, there's a lot of wistfulness and sadness around that colour. But this is actually Howard's memory of a friend who he saw at a bar on the other side of the room, and all he could remember was just this brilliant blue dress she was wearing. And that brilliant blue dress was what inspired the portrait. This was an immensely powerful show. It was full of incredibly dazzling works that, yes, you needed explanations for. Take this, for example. This is you can see it's a green egg, but I said to myself, right, I'm not going to look at the text. I want to know who this is. I want to work out who this is a portrait of. And so I went sort of, okay, egg, female, reproduction, birth. It's a painting of a man. A green egg is a painting of a man, and that threw me completely. So there is always the challenge for this, is that this is going to be a portrait really to Howard and to Howard alone, because we're never going to work out who this is. We're not going to be able to recognise the sitter as we do with more traditional portraiture. We're never going to know what colour their hair is, whether they were wearing nail varnish, were they wearing jewellery. You're not going to get that from Howard's work, but you are going to get a sense of who they were and the feelings that they brought out in Howard. So some of this may work with you from a emotional perspective. You may look at some of these works and think, these are amazing. Almost the architecture in some of the abstract work draw you in. But it is going to be hard for you, almost impossible, to work out who the sitter is. Does that make it any less of a portrait? Well, the debate was still going, even amongst the critics, even amongst the audiences. There were some great discussions going on outside the gallery, just from people who just visited the exhibition because they happened to be at the NPG, and they were really challenged with whether this was portraiture. And there were some very passionate discussions that I overheard about how these works made people feel. This exhibition catalogue has got pretty much every artwork in the show in here, and that's what makes it supremely high quality, but also because it allows you to contemplate some of the themes. One of the most important themes as well, of course, is colour. So take, for example, Howard's love of colour. Now you're going to take this as being a positive representation of someone because it's red, it's got a triangle, it's nice and dynamic, it's got a lovely form. But sometimes Howard would pick more sombre palettes. This was one of the last paintings of the exhibition. This is Absent Friends. This is a detail from it. And as you can see, it's a very melancholic, sombre, creams, caramels, browns. And like I said, it's called Absent Friends, so you get a sense of loss from this, of Howard being sad about reflecting on the memory of friends. So there's a lot to challenge you in terms of colour, in terms of form, and that's why I'm really excited about the quality of the exhibition catalogue that was produced for Absent Friends. Paul Moorhouse's essay is excellent. A few thousand words that really gets you thinking about portraiture, the necessity of memory, the importance of colour, and whether you really do need form in order for something to be constituted as portraiture. Do you really need figurative? Do you really need a figure in the artwork for it to be considered portraiture. Maybe yes, maybe no, but this will really get you thinking. And it's probably one of the only exhibition catalogues I've returned to again and again this year, because there's still so much that I'm weighing up. Now, when exhibitions close, they largely send back the exhibition catalogues once they close. So if you are looking for exhibition catalogues, or it is something that you're passionate about, can I recommend a website called Museum Bookstore? Because not only are there exhibition catalogues often at good value, but also you can get exhibition catalogues for overseas galleries that you and I would probably never get to see. You can search for it by galleries such as like MoMA or Musée d'Orsay, and it has a great library in there, like I say, all at good value. So we're going to start with Howard Hodgkin's Absent Friends, because I think it has a lot for you to think about, a lot for us to think about. I'm still thinking about it, but hopefully if you enjoy this vlog, we can start thinking about other exhibition catalogues and me bringing the visual arts more into your home. Okay, thank you.